Hi there, and welcome to your GG replay for Wednesday, September 1st, 2021. We made it to September, and the games are going to start coming. Hosted by us, the Goodnight Groofs, a place for games and a place for goofs. For those of you on the audio right now, I showed off my mug, which said GG replay on Goodnight Groofs on each side. Not for sale, but should be. It was slick. Also, just a reminder, GG replay is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday podcast where we break down the latest in gaming news. I am Paul, and I am joined, as always, by Matt. How are you doing today? It's good to have you back. We had a great time with Mike in your absence, but it's always good to be back here with Chief Groof.
Yeah.
How are you doing? How are you doing?
Yeah, Mike, thanks for filling in. You guys did a really good job. I enjoyed listening to both episodes. Some really good topics.
It's fun to be able to listen to the replay again for once. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting not being on a show with the Groofs for the first time and being able to just kind of be a fan. So that was kind of fun. I thought it was awesome because Mike brings some different opinions that, we don't have, and some different experience with games, so it really added to the conversation, I thought. So I enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience this week. So this is my first time not being on a Groove show as well. I've been on every replay except one. Actually, that's not true. I was not on the one with Josh. There was one replay I missed. But overall, I missed Game Grooves this week, and that was the first time I missed that. And I had a blast listening to that. You guys had a great show. I had a lot of fun just listening to it. It was a really chill episode without my manic energy entering the scene, and I thought it was really, really good. I had a blast listening to it.
Yeah, it was a shorter one. We were a little time constraint.
I saw you did you save? I didn't get to the very end, but I think you saved Cash or what is it? Cash or Trash?
Yeah,
or did you do that?
We did Cash or Trash.
Oh, you did do it? Okay, I just missed that part. Okay. Excellent. Darn, I was going to get in on that. Okay.
Too bad. Well, no, yeah, I actually, when we're going through it, I mentioned the ones that I thought you would have cached.
Perfect. I appreciate it. I can't wait to get there. I bet you're right.
The Artful Escape was one of them.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, yeah. But other than that, Paul, I'm feeling a little under the weather.
Yeah,
but
it's fall.
I just had a negative COVID test, so that's good. So it's not
Congratulations.
that. So we're gonna power through this, and we're gonna have a good show today.
We are. We're gonna have a great time, and then we're gonna go nap or whatever. Because you've had a long few days. You've been driving. You've been doing all kinds of stuff. So
a lot of driving.
Time to do a break. All right, but before then, we got to push through and have a great show. So just a reminder before we get any further into the show that if you come across any necessary corrections in today's episode, please email us at ggreplayshow@gmail.com or head down to the YouTube comments below and leave us a comment. We really, really appreciate it. So far, we have been proven 100%. Although I will say, Mike gave me a correction on Monday, actually. So not an audience correction, but he did correct me on the fact that I said you would be here on Monday and you were not. So
I was not.
we did get a correction. All right. Now, Matt, before you're back, we welcome you. And you know what else is welcoming you? The reviews, because they are in. And we have some interesting games to talk about. Some interesting ones. Indies, a lot. Now, first off, we start with Tormented Souls. This is a survival horror game, very classic. Got a 73 on OpenCritic. Very, very respectable score. You're going to see that as a kind of a trend on this episode. And it is out now. Now, Matt, you have some early impressions of this game. You can go ahead and share those.
Yeah, obviously I haven't played the game, but I watched a trailer, and I'm having a hard time understanding how it managed to get a 73. It looks really, really rough. The voice acting in the trailer was some of the worst I've seen in video games as of late. It just did not look good, Paul, at all.
So my take on this, I watched some reviews of it, and my take from looking at it is kind of similar to what I thought about No More Heroes 3 on Friday with Mike. I was mentioning, it feels like a classic Silent Hill game. It feels like Silent Hill 2 or Silent Hill 3, like the remasters that I played. Now, it looks better, obviously, in terms of the graphical fidelity. I think the fidelity is good, but like the way they've designed it is very, very much classic you walk, the sticks change directions as you enter rooms, that kind of thing. Ultimately, yeah, it looks just like my experience playing the remastered Silent Hill games. For like Xbox 360 and that kind of thing. I think for people who a lot of the complaints are that the puzzles are way too consuming and like tedious and some of that stuff, which to me, that is Silent Hill. So, I mean, anyone who's looking to play those games, this is a classic experience. And I think it's the same thing with the No More Heroes 3 thing, right? Anyone who is willing to play that same game, but now and just more of it, cool. They did not reinvent the wheel with that game, and they didn't reinvent the wheel with this game. This is another classic survival horror game. So if you just want more of that and don't need them to iterate or innovate, here you go.
Sure, go for it.
I think that's where the score came from, right? I think it's like, oh, I loved those games, and just more of that is fine. I'm okay with playing nothing new, reinventing the wheel kind of thing.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah. Moving on to something. So I mentioned this game when it first showed at the Xbox Indie event, and I thought this looked really, really cool. This game is The Big Con. It's a narrative story game. Got a 72 on OpenCritic, pretty respectable again score. It's out today. I mentioned this, and I mentioned it to you, and you had not seen the Xbox event. And right. From when me describing it to you, you said, this sounds really cool.
Right.
And then I saw your comment. And do you want to read the comment that you wrote?
Yeah, I just wrote that the trailer annoyed me. Look, I am all about like 90s nostalgia stuff, but like the song in this trailer, the way it was edited just annoyed the shit out of me. And I also don't quite understand what the gameplay is. There isn't a lot there. I don't know. Am I wrong? It just seems like there's not a whole lot going on.
Yeah, so I saw some stuff, again, watched some reviews. I didn't actually even see that trailer because that wasn't the trailer that they showed at the Xbox event. And seeing that full trailer for the game, it was goofy. That song was pretty bad. It didn't really seem to fit everything. The the visuals of that video were cool. Like the kind of like the very 90s nostalgia stuff, but looked like a Rugrats interstitial.
Yeah.
But yeah, the song didn't wow me. But I will say, it looks a lot like, I wrote Doug meets Rocket Power, which is pretty cool. The story seems interesting. You're like this 17-year-old girl, and you're with your friend, and it's like a male and female pairing, but it doesn't seem like they're romantic, which is cool. They're just going on an adventure, and they have to like save the mom from issues with money and things like that. So you're going around pickpocketing people, and it seems cool. It seems to be pretty linear. They put you in a space, like you're saying, Matt, with gameplay. I think they kind of put you in a space intentionally to pick some pockets and do some things, but the gameplay is kind of secondary to the story and the interacting with other little characters. This game is a game I personally think would have benefited a lot from some cheesy, hilarious 90s voice acting. I think there's a big miss out that it's pretty much non-voiced and all text. I think that would have added a little something to me, or even kind of like funny little voices, like, I don't know, something would have been kind of fun, and it looks kind of silent from what I saw in the reviews. So I don't know. I might play it. I'll probably play it at some point. I like the general story, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know if the aesthetic is super cool, but I don't know if that can carry the game enough when it doesn't seem like there's a lot of game going on.
When I was watching the trailer, the first thing that popped in my mind was like, this looks like an easy-ass platinum trophy, but it's not on PlayStation.
Oh, there you go.
So I guess not.
There you go. Is it only on Steam?
It's on PC and
Xbox, of course, because it was at the Xbox event.
Yeah.
Also, you didn't write. We didn't review it, but honorable shout out because it didn't get more than 6 reviews. But honorable shout out to the game Lake that came out today as well on Xbox and PC.
If it gets another review,
one away. So we can talk about it later, but I just want to say that looks hilarious. Like, it looks like a weird, very cozy game. Working as a postal worker in like Portland. It looks fun. So very anyway, if that gets one more, it is a very specific game for me specifically. It feels like Life is Strange, but you're a postal worker and there's no time travel. You just walk.
Run from a few dogs, maybe.
Run from a few dogs. We've all done that in our day. Neither rain nor sleet nor nah. If it's a bad day, you're not going out. All right. And one last game for the reviews coming in. Rustler. Great name, I think. That is kind of like an action isometric game. That got a 60 on OpenCritic. It is also out now. This is something that was totally off of my radar, but you wrote it down here. And yeah, it looks interesting. Yeah, you wrote it. Sorry to take here, but you wrote Medieval GTA. 1 and 2, like
Yeah.
the like those. And to me, it looks more like a Western thing, right? Like it looks more like a. Am I crazy? I thought it had more
No, it's medieval.
like 1800s America Western thing. It's medieval.
I'm almost 100% sure.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Wasn't. Yeah, you can check into that. Yeah, one of my favorite. I saw a review that was titled "Grand Theft Horse." It's pretty lazy, but also
Yeah,
yeah,
this
sure.
is a medieval.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks fine. It looks like it's not the kind of game I would play. I just.
Yeah. What's funny is like even the character like on the like their cover character on the art looks
Mhm.
like the character from Bully. So like it
Yeah, it
looks like
does.
they're really going for an old school Rockstar thing here. I don't know how that works in a medieval setting necessarily.
Hmm.
Maybe apparently not according to the reviews, but I
Yeah,
I don't know. I appreciate the original GTA games, you know, GTA 1 and 2 for what
sure.
they were. I played the first one. I don't think I ever played GTA 2. And actually it's funny when I was when I was a kid renting a game from Blockbuster, I really wanted GTA 3. Maybe I played GTA 2. I really wanted to rent GTA 3.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, either my parents didn't let me or they were out or something. So instead I got GTA 2 thinking it would pretty much be the same game. They're not at all. Obviously,
That was one of the biggest jumps in in games there for a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I get the game going, and I'm like, "What the heck? This isn't GTA. What's going on here?"
So
So
funny. I mean, you can steal a car, but it's very different.
yeah. So you know me, top-down games usually
Hmm.
aren't my thing, and that's always been the case apparently. And
Hmm.
this just looks like it's watching gameplay. It just looks like something's missing.
Yeah.
It
I'm.
looks like there's like it needed more development. I don't know.
Yeah, I have a feeling this kind of plays into my like with top-down games. I really like extremely fluid action or turn-based action, and I don't really like that middle ground where it's kind of like janky action that feels like it probably should be turn-based, but it's
Right.
not. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
like you have like circle targets and stuff, but you're real time. Doesn't do
Right.
it for
Right.
me.
Right.
So that just like totally disqualifies that for me. Let's move right into the big stories of the day. First things first, we're coming at it. One of the greatest, I'd say the greatest comeback story in video games, No Man's Sky, and here we are with another free DLC, No Man's Sky Frontiers, and they are not finished yet. I saw a funny comment that was like, the world was like, Sean Murray, you've done it, you've reclaimed the game, you can finally rest, and then he's like, nope, I've got more to do. So we finally have settlements. These settlements look totally bomb. And of course, this is a normal update, so it has everything. It's like new season stuff, and some graphical updates, and the normal stuff you'd expect. But in addition, we have settlements. So this looks totally cool. We have like random NPCs filling out the settlements, which is one of the biggest things because the game still feels a bit lonely. You can go to a space station, but obviously when you're on the planet, you can build these great spaces, but you can't really fill them with anyone. So that's pretty cool. It's just great to see more free DLC from these guys. And also space politics. They mentioned this is a tiny afterthought, but they have a thing where they have different NPC aliens. I think it's NPCs, and it says like it's about negotiating settlements, negotiating treaties with settlements. And I thought that seemed really cool. I love that idea of being able to kind of work with maybe separate settlements. Maybe the other settlements are like NPC settlements. Matt, I know you're not a crazy No Man's Sky guy on your when we tried it out. But what do you think of settlements and frontiers?
Well, it's funny you mentioned space politics, and I feel like it's easy to say that, but to actually
I know.
implement interesting
Yeah,
space politics, we'll have to
I
see.
know.
Settlements, honestly, I watched the trailer. It looks really cool.
Looks
I
cool.
still think that this game is just not for me. I still feel
Yeah.
like it plays like it's all janky. At least when we played, I don't know if it's changed. The inventory system was the worst in any game I've ever played.
The UI is a bit janky. The maps, people in the inventory, a lot of people still say that's an issue. Yeah.
My biggest question is how are they still funding this? Like these are all free updates. Where's the
Yeah.
money coming to for
I
the
think
development costs?
so. I think like this is a great thing to do for people who are early adopters, right? That's where it becomes like them being good guy hello games, right? But
Hmm.
I think there were a ton of people who didn't early adopt or were waiting to see how the reviews went and it was trash. And so there's still people buying the game, I think. There's still plenty of people buying this game. And the more it goes on sale, the more and more people like me who might have tried it on Game Pass or might have tried it some other time or might have always been wondering about it, might just like pay the $30, pick it up
Yeah, it's
and
just
have a great
weird.
time.
You usually don't see because this game's 5 years old now. You usually don't
Mhm.
see a continuing like continuing development on a game like this that doesn't include either
Yeah.
paid DLC or like paid in-game items. Like this
There's
is
not even
so
paid. There's not even
rare.
paid in-game currency. Yeah, there's no way to make money on this game besides buying the game, which is
I can't even think of an example of a game
same
aside from No Man's Sky that has continued development for 5 years.
with
And
no games as a service.
yeah,
Yeah,
I can't think of an example. If you can, please leave it in the comments.
yeah, please.
Because I was thinking like, I don't know, the first couple games that came to my mind were like, okay, Guild Wars 2, but obviously they have an in-game
Expansions.
store and expansions. You have the Division, like obviously they have in-game stuff, and
Yeah,
the development cycle was shorter, and then they had the Division 2.
yeah. Even if you
Or
look back at old games, right? They had expansions, and usually sequels came out way quicker too.
yeah, so I guess a huge respect for that. I mean,
I love
that's
it.
amazing that they're doing this and that they're finding a way to do it. It's kind of weird because the accounting department at Hello Games is got to be fantastic. They're
I
managing
was
money
gonna,
super
yeah.
well.
I was gonna say it's a pretty small team. I think it always was, and I don't think it ever became super massive. I think that was kind of part of the issue, right? The team was always kind of small, and so it didn't launch with everything they were supposed to because they had all this pressure from Sony and from other people to kind of publish and get it out. But they've been able to kind of, I think probably, and this is just speculation, but I think because the team's so small, they could kind of slowly put out updates and make it the game that it was supposed to be. It just took them 5 years, right? Because they had such a small team. So they probably were able to keep paying themselves with the amount that they made probably on the initial excitement. And then now it's hopefully getting them more money later. But one last question, just because I wrote it down, I thought it was kind of funny. Will No Man's Sky become Star Citizen before Star Citizen even launches? I saw people mentioning this, and I thought that's so funny. They're so close. I feel like you add MMO aspects, you add a little bit more multiplayer. Not a little bit, I mean a lot more. But I'm just saying we're getting to a point where they're adding a lot of the stuff that they mentioned in Star Citizen. I mean, I feel like you're someone who thinks Star Citizen isn't going to launch, right? So I mean,
I don't. I go back and forth on this.
mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to sound like a Star Citizen shill, but I do think
Mm-hmm.
it's become a meme to the point where
Mm-hmm.
people don't actually even realize that there is a game to Star Citizen. Like
Yes,
you can buy it right now and jump in and play a game.
play something. Yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think it could be one of those cases where Star Citizen never like actually has an official release, but they are still developing things. It's just
mm-hmm.
that the development creep, the feature creep got so bad that
Yeah.
I think that's why they kept promising these things so people are assuming like, okay, well that's coming soon. It's like, no, maybe this is just a game that's like in it for the long haul. Like
Yeah.
this is going to be like the plan is to develop this game for the next 30 years. I don't know.
But the thing is, can No Man's Sky and Hello Games catch up before then? I don't know.
I
I think
don't
that's a
they're
very
different
valid, interesting.
games.
They're different games, and I get that, but I'm just wondering. Everyone keeps saying, you would say No Man's Sky now is an extremely different game than No Man's Sky 2 years ago,
Yeah.
3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years. They really are changing the game with all these updates, mounts, and pets, and settlements, and mech suits, and space, and actual story. They've really added. They just keep piecemeal adding stuff on, so it makes you wonder if they can piecemeal add on even more. And multiplayer, they added multiplayer piecemeal, so makes you wonder. It's interesting. If they wanted to, I wonder how that would go. Maybe that's the secret dream. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's interesting to look at.
But I don't know. But Star Citizen is the most funded video game of all time. So
It sure is.
but with No Man's Sky, if they can make multiplayer a little bit more accessible and less janky in how it works, then I'd be more willing to jump in again. But
Yeah.
I remember the first time I played with you and our buddy Spencer, we had real difficulty even just like making it work properly.
We did have trouble finding each other and doing, because it worked fine when we knew what to do, but it was just knowing, like, it worked, but it was just unintuitive in which button you're supposed to press. It was kind of like, it's like, how am I supposed to join a game? Whose game are we supposed to join? It's a
Right,
little confusing.
right.
Maybe they fixed that. That was about a year ago. I'm not sure if that's something that they've worked on. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that, because I think you should try No Man's Sky again. I tried to play recently. My only downside was that my launch Xbox One chugs pretty hard at this point on No Man's Sky because of all the procedural generation and everything. Yeah, it's pretty rough. I think that'll be something that I'll enjoy more in next gen, but I think I could really sink some hours into that game. I have a great time playing No Man's Sky.
I wonder if part of that is because it was optimized for PS4.
That's very possible. Very, very possible. I should maybe try playing it on there. All right, moving on to something I'm pretty excited for still. I'm not sure if Mike is still excited. That was our Mike is excited for this game, which is Marvel's Midnight Sun. So we got an official gameplay reveal trailer, I believe yesterday, today, and it looks interesting. Now we did hear for Access and it say this is not going to play just like XCOM. We already knew that. They have said that. But it does look pretty different. I think a lot of people took that to mean that the game was going to play maybe an evolved form. Maybe we'd see something more like Divinity or something. Some people were kind of saying that. We didn't really get that. Instead, we got turn-based, but we also got a card system similar to stuff like maybe like, no, I'm not saying definitely, but things like, Thronebreaker, The Witcher, or that game we recently saw, Black Book or something, the one with maybe something like that, or a mobile game that uses card systems. It's interesting. Now, notably, the cards aren't in every aspect of the game, it seems. It seems it's like a skill-based system, and they're earned from doing things like interacting with other characters out of combat. It's hard to get a full grasp on what they do, but it is interesting. I think there is some, mixed reception on this. Matt, how do you feel about this? This obviously wasn't something you were going into super psyched. It's not a huge Marvel fan and not a huge, turn-based game fan, but I feel like, there's some interest there.
I personally like a card system more than tactical stuff. Same. But I just don't understand why they wouldn't just essentially make Marvel XCOM.
Yeah.
I don't understand why take this risk. I when I was watching the gameplay trailer, it's like got just as many dislikes as it has likes. Well, yeah. I just don't understand why they would go a different route when XCOM works.
And XCOM, like people would just want another XCOM game and another XCOM gameplay game. It doesn't matter, like the story, whatever, like the setting is cool, but people love Marvel and people love XCOM, and there's a huge mix of people there. And I think they would just buy a reskinned XCOM game basically for Marvel.
Exactly.
So it's interesting that they didn't do that. It seems like a missed, like once again, seems like kind of a missed opportunity, but not for the way we saw with like Crystal Dynamics Marvel game or other ones where they kind of did a missed opportunity and that they didn't do enough to make it interesting. It feels like they did maybe too much to make it too different, and that might be what's going to turn people off. I, for one, like it. I've been wanting to dip my toes into this kind of like card-based, turn-based gameplay. The game still looks awesome in the gameplay. We saw not just the action combat, but also, like the turn-based combat, but also we saw a lot of character development, stuff about like building your team, interacting different characters. They mentioned you can go for a walk in the forest with Tony Stark, or you can do some magic with Doctor Strange. And it's like, okay, yeah, like that sounds goofy in a trailer, but I actually do want to do that stuff. And it seems really, really cool. So, and it seems like based on the interactions you're going to have with your team, that's going to affect combat and different skills and team ups you have. So, I mean, this seems, as a Marvel fan, like something I'm very interested in, especially someone who probably could stand a little bit of turn-based, just because, I don't know, I think superhero Marvel-y games, unless you go like a full, Spider-Man PS4 route, full open world action thing, I think those games can get a little out of hand in terms of power creep and difficulty, and I think it's kind of cool to do it turn-based. So I'm psyched still. I think the cards look fun.
Yeah, I'm a fan of card systems. It's been a popular genre lately, and you see other games that are tactical like this, like card adjacent, that are adding actual card aspects to their games. Paul, have you heard of Slay the Spire?
I have heard of it and I've been told to play it, but I actually don't 100% know what it is.
It's a card roguelike.
Like you told me to play it. Yeah.
So I do think it's something you'd be really interested in. I think it's
I should play it then. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna play it then. You've sold me already. I've been playing so many roguelikes recently that I should just get into it, or roguelites rather. All right. Well, anyway, I'm pretty psyched. I'm not an XCOM player though. Neither is Matt, so I think that's probably why we're like, oh, this looks fine still. But I think clearly by the like to dislike ratio, it's too bad that it's not going to capture some of those XCOM people. But we'll have to see. It's early days, so we have more to see. And I think on September 7th, there's going to be more reveals where they talk about Wolverine and some other stuff too. So stuff to check out, which I know will get your blood pumping, Matt, as an X-Men fan.
I do love X-Men. Not XCOM, but I love X-Men.
Not XCOM, but X-Men. All right. So moving right along to some of the stuff we talked about on Monday, we mentioned that there's going to be a lot of reveals for games yesterday, and there were. So right off the bat, we got some Dead Space early reveal stuff. Now this was pretty interesting because Mike and I both kind of assumed we weren't really going to see any gameplay, and I don't think we did see gameplay, but I really didn't expect to see any even in-engine footage. I imagined a lot of concept art, a lot of the kind of stuff we saw for Starfield recently when we had early reveals. So this was kind of interesting. We first off just saw the graphics. They look unreal. It was so cool to see them layer the graphics.
Yeah, that was cool.
And the ray tracing was really, really cool with the smoke, which obviously is really cool to put in there along the ground and everything else. Really, really captured that Alien vibe, like Alien, the Ridley Scott movie, where you have kind of the smoke and the flickering lights, and you don't know what's going to come from any side, which is pretty cool. In addition, we got some interesting thoughts. First off, we saw the developers mention that they had an emphasis on not wanting to break immersion, and we saw a lot about that, talking about how they didn't want to have loading screens, they didn't want to have anything that's going to slow you down and stop you from being able to walk the whole ship, because they don't want that break in the suspense that you get from a horror game, which I think is really, really cool, because I agree that breaks the suspense majorly. It's cool to constantly feel like, you're not going to get a break. This game is going to keep going, and the fear is there. But also kind of controversial. We saw Gunnar Wright will be providing the voice for Isaac again, despite not being voiced in the original game. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Some people like silent protagonists, some people like voice protagonists. I know a lot of people who are Dead Space fans love Gunnar Wright as Isaac Clarke. And I don't think, that's a big problem, but it is interesting to see them go backwards and put that in a game that previously didn't have a voice. Now, they did say it wasn't going to be a lot. Like, he would have just a few, some scenes where he talked to maybe someone, or once in a while say some commentary when it was appropriate. It didn't sound like it was going to be, we'll talk about that later with Far Cry, but it didn't sound like it was going to be like they're going to comment on every freaking thing they see. Like, oh, look, I picked up a flashlight. Oh, look, I picked up that. And like make a sarcastic remark. Doesn't seem like we're going to get that, which is good. But Matt, what did you think of the Dead Space early reveal?
It was interesting because I think the biggest thing we got out of it was that, yeah, this truly is like a 1-for-1 remake of the original, which had always sort of been like a question. Like, at first it was it a reboot? Well, no, then we learned it was a remake, but then we're like, okay, well, like, what do you mean by remake exactly? No, it is like a 1-for-1 remake with maybe, I know there was talk of like adding cut content and stuff like that, but this is going to just be like a modern version of Dead Space.
This feels like Halo Anniversary or something like that, right? Where they just like went over almost, where they just like go over the entire thing and reskin. Which is pretty crazy. Now, I don't know if you saw, Matt, but they had an interesting thing that we got a lot of pushback online, where they showed an image from the original Dead Space, and then below they showed the the remade image. And the old one looked like trash. And I saw a lot of people online. I have yet to confirm. A lot of people online said it doesn't look that bad. They purposely like put it on low graphics to show that off. Now, I don't have like any sort of confirmation, but I saw a lot of people saying I still play Dead Space all the time, and I can tell you that if you play it on a modern PC or you play it on an Xbox Series X, it doesn't look like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I don't know, because I think when you see it, you go, oh, okay, maybe that was how bad Xbox 360 looked. But there's a lot of people who are like, I actually still play this, and I can tell you, you're not remembering wrong. It did look better.
Yeah, I was watching someone stream Dead Space a few months ago on Twitch, and I specifically said in chat, I can't believe how well this game holds up. It looks so good. And so yeah, I do. That is weird if they actually did that to like emphasize the difference when it's not actually the true difference. But like, just trust your product. I mean, it's still going to look better. It's 2021.
Like, no, it looks so good. Yeah. I noticed at one point in the walkthrough, which is funny, there I think it was one of the people interviewing, she said, oh, the smoke, the lighting looks so good. And she's like, but that makes sense. Like, that's what we expect from a 2021 next gen release. And I was like, yeah, like, it's just like, it was like a little bit like, oh, this looks good. But like, it also looks like it should look like this. This is what it should look like. Like, I'm not going to give you like a huge pat on the back. This is just what it should look like at this point.
I find it weird that this game had like an hour-long development stream showing off like graphical stuff. Something about that's just weird. Like, this is, I don't know.
Like, what else do they have to show? It's the same game.
Exactly, but graphics. Like, I don't know why we're showing anything right now if you don't really have anything substantial to show. That just seems like a weird move to me.
Yeah, I
for
agree.
like a AAA game. I don't know. It was strange. I have weirdly bad vibes about this. I don't
Yeah.
know if like there's any good reason for that, but I just have weirdly bad vibes about this. But at the same time, all you have to do is remake Dead Space 1 with new graphics and people are going to like it because they love Dead
Yeah.
Space 1. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be hard to mess it up.
One interesting point that I noticed, and it was something that I thought too when I first heard about the remake and started seeing some stuff, was are we is it still going to look as scary with the dark? And I noticed that it seemed to capture that pretty well in this reveal. Now, I don't know if you remember like Halo, if you ever played Halo 1 Anniversary, they reskinned it. Did you play that or no?
I didn't play the story stuff.
Okay, so they reskinned the whole game, but you can press a button and immediately go back between the two different graphics, the original graphics and the new graphics,
Yeah.
like exactly where you are. That was a really cool feature, but it actually highlighted a lot how when they updated the graphics and made them more detailed and used all this cool lighting, it actually made it a lot less frightening. Stuff like the flood level, where when you first meet the flood, which is this terrifying sequence, is you're in these bright halls where you can see everything and they just look like they're floating around. They're just nothing. You can see everything everywhere. There's no fear to it. There's no ambiance in any of the hallways, spaceship interiors. Now, obviously, totally different developer, totally different thing, but we do see like an emphasis on ray traced graphics and the lighting, because lighting is one of the big ways you can differentiate graphics in 2021. And I think they did a good job in this video, showing off. They had a little light in the corner, and one of the things, like a fluorescent kind of light, and it was like flickering, and at points in the flicker, it was very dark.
Right.
And I think that's key. I think making use of the lighting so we can see beautiful spaces, but also just as quickly we can turn those off or take them away, is pretty cool. But it's always my worry now after that Halo thing, that I'm a little worried that more lighting or improved graphics might actually take away from some of the things where you couldn't make out how scary something was, maybe because of
Yeah.
limitations.
I think it's fine if the game is being made for, if it's like a new game. But if you're trying to remake something where like they had to work around certain things to create tricks like that back in the day, then now when you're trying to translate that to 2021 visuals, you're gonna find that it's not gonna translate perfectly.
Yeah. I think a big part of that is like emphasis on what you care about. Like in Halo, it's not a survival horror game. That's not their goal. So ultimately, they'd rather have the graphics in 99% of the game be really cool and bright and fun and visually amazing, versus a couple scary scenes being scary, because it's not about being scared. That's not the whole point of Halo. Whereas in Dead Space, that is the entire point. So I think with that emphasis, they'll probably do a better job and make sure that that's clear, I think.
I will say, you're right. Halo's not a survival horror game, but some of my favorite parts of Halo are the parts that are supposed to be scary.
Same, and that's kind of the thing. So like for me, I found that was my emphasis. That's what I remember liking about Halo. But I guess it's not really their main goal, I guess. So, but I think in the story it really kind of is, and so I missed out on that a lot. I had a friend and we were playing through and we're like, wow, these environments are so great. And when we got to that point, we were like, oh, this was like the thing we were most excited for playing in the game. And it wasn't scary at all. It's kind of weird.
Paul,
And
I'm suddenly coming to a realization. We talk about all the time how I don't like space sci-fi. I think I do kind of like space horror, though.
Yeah.
I do kind of like space
horror.
You
liked it in Halo? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I'm interested in this Dead Space game. And I've been open to playing Alien Isolation. Haven't played it, but I've been open to it, so that's at least the step.
Have you tried Prey?
You know what? Funny that you mentioned that. That's been on my list for a really long time, and I've been wanting to play it.
You should move it up. We're talking about space sci-fi. You should move it up the list. I've been meaning to do it too. It's also I almost 100% positive it is on Game Pass too, which is kind of cool.
I think it's on
console at least.
See, that's PC. The reason why. Yeah. I wanted to play it.
I feel like it probably goes on good sales though. I feel like
it does. It's just never been quite low enough for me to purchase it.
Fair enough. Just gonna have to get a Series X, Matt. Just gonna have to. No, you know what? Join me. Get a Series S just for Game Pass, and you'll be good. All right. Moving right along, talking about Far Cry 6. So we also got Far Cry 6 gameplay yesterday. We're getting everything yesterday. And this was interesting. I watched through a good chunk of it. I will say I skimmed through most of it because I didn't want to get too many story spoilers. So I mostly watched some of just the environments and the open world gameplay. To me, the environments looked crazy. Like I'm not I wasn't sure. I watched a couple different videos and I wasn't sure who was running what, because I think a lot of people were making points of like, I'm running on an Xbox Series X, I'm running on a PC. I wasn't 100% sure of who was doing what, or what system was doing what, but it looked unbelievable. It looked I wouldn't say like real, like completely real. It wasn't like Uncanny Valley, but it was, the lighting and some of the detail was unlike anything I've almost ever seen in a working game.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I thought that it looked disappointing from a graphical
So
standpoint.
interesting. So is it in the environments?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Specifically in part of the developer video that I saw, they were like crouching and hiding around, I guess they were cacti, and they looked like 2D. Like it was really
Interesting.
bad.
Okay.
And I was like, this is weirdly unimpressive visually.
I will say that the things I liked were not the detailed work, but more the expansive
Like
views you would get, the
landscapes and stuff.
vistas.
I gotcha.
If you stood there and you saw the jungle
Right.
landscaped around you, or the beach when you wake up on the beach there, oh my God, like it looks like a real beach, it looks like a real
Right.
jungle. But getting up closer under scrutiny when they went, under tunnels and into certain building interiors, did not look as good to me. In fact, I felt like the gameplay and the way the game looked and kind of moved felt a lot like GoldenEye to me. I know that's like a big, obviously there's a lot of iterations. I'm sure things look better, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things similar to that, and they've worked their way up. But it looked extremely stiff. Now, I don't know if this is just like a
Really?
Far Cry
Okay.
quirk, but I thought the movement, the gunplay looked very like up, down, left, right, very kind of stiff. And I thought that, like, when you see the blood splatter from getting shot at, or you shoot, it felt very much like the stiff movements of GoldenEye. I
Mm.
actually liked that. I thought it looked kind of fun. I thought it looked kind of like easy to move and maneuver. And I kind of like that against like the very detailed, I thought, very detailed environments that you would see, to see kind of like simpler gunplay. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know. What did you think? Did you have any major view of the gunplay, or did that more just kind of look like normal Far Cry gunplay to you?
It just looks like Far
Okay.
Cry, which is what I love. So I'm
Yeah.
totally down for it. I love the Far Cry game, so I'm
Yeah.
excited for it. The
What?
gameplay
Yeah.
is I'm not expecting it to be revolutionary. I know
No.
this. I know it's
Yeah.
not going to be. But I am interested for Giancarlo Esposito and a potentially more interesting story, during this revolution, and voiced protagonist.
I was gonna say, so Matt, what do you think of the voice protagonist? We heard a lot from her in the gameplay, a lot. What do you think? I thought she was great. I liked the character. I'm interested in being a revolutionary. It looks pretty cool. And also, I guess the only thing I would say as a downside is, like a lot of people say, she talks a lot. She does that kind of thing we don't love, or I don't love a lot, where every item she sees, she has to make like a sarcastic remark about, or she starts like kind of mumbling to herself about stuff constantly while
Right.
moving around. I don't know if that's kind of for the gameplay trailer, but I doubt it. I think that's just part of the game. What are your feelings on the voice protagonist?
It's fine. I don't really mind it. Those things don't really bug me in games. I mean, I love The Witcher 3, and Geralt does a ton of that kind of stuff, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
winds howling, medallion
Yeah,
summoning. Like,
yeah, yeah. I
place
mean,
of power, gotta be.
that's a good point though, because I actually agree. I like that in The Witcher 3. I like Geralt's commentary, but also, and maybe it's because I like that. Maybe it's just true to life that I like that character more. Maybe once I get to know this character more, I'll care more about their commentary.
Yeah, I don't
Hard to say.
know. One thing that I am interested about is we haven't seen like the male version of the protagonist yet. So I wonder if
So are we getting can you pick a male or a female protagonist? I
you
thought it was just
can.
a female
Yeah.
set
Yeah,
protagonist.
you
Okay.
are going to be able to pick. So I have to assume the female must just be like the canon one that they're going with, sort
I
of
think
like
so.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where
Mhm.
Cassandra was canon. And I personally felt like playing as her, I don't want to get into spoilers, but playing as her definitely felt like the correct choice in that game.
I wonder if they'll do it more like a traditional thing though, where it's the same character either way. You just change the gender. Maybe.
I assume that's why the character's name is Danny. So it's
On like Assassin's Creed, where you actually play different characters in Odyssey depending on the gender, right?
well, the thing that they do
Sort
in
of.
Assassin's Creed though is, I forget the name that they call you, but instead of like calling
Yeah.
you by your like actual name, you have a nickname,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so it can go either way then.
Yeah, but I mean, story-wise, like your backstory is different if you pick the male protagonist, right? Aren't you like a different because that character exists in the
Um,
female story too, sort of? Or is that spoilers? We don't have to get into it if it
n-
is, but
Not really because they are related,
yeah,
and so because
fair
of
enough.
Assassin's Creed and the whole DNA thing, your like the future character can like go into the DNA of
Sure.
other family members
Yeah.
regardless of gender or whatever. So
Fair.
it didn't really change anything.
Yeah, fair
It
enough.
was just better
Uh,
voice acting and felt better when Alexios was the character.
yeah, makes total sense. Yeah, other stuff in Far Cry that was cool. You made note of the weapon mods, gear, and equipment, which is pretty cool. The grappling
Yeah,
looks
they all
pretty
look really
awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. They the jetpack type thing
Yeah.
where you can just like have a ring of fire around you.
Yeah.
Almost like an ultimate. They almost like ultimate moves that they have,
Yeah. Which
which
I
is kind of
like.
cool. I know a lot of people are unhappy with the enemy health bars. That's been a major complaint since the gameplay trailer came out. But you can remove them in the settings, and at least for me, it doesn't really bother me as long as they're not bullet sponges. I know in New Dawn they were more bullet spongy than they ever have been in any Far Cry game before. So hopefully they're
Yeah.
going away from that a little bit. It doesn't really bother me, especially if you can remove it. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah, looks cool to me. I'm pretty psyched. I hope I'm not setting myself up for disappointment, but the story looks so enthralling to me. I really, really, really want to play just for that. Even though I know it'll be a little bit hokey, probably even with Giancarlo, I think it'll probably be, a video gamey action movie story with like a, get the cure for cancer thing and everything else. But it still looks like a lot of fun. I think the acting heavyweights are going to be key, and I actually this might get me to play Far Cry, and then if it's good, I might go back. I might play other ones. I actually really wanted to play 5. Now that it's on so many sales, maybe I'll finally get back and play that too.
You just have to go into it understanding that there's always sort of like a mixing of tones in Far Cry where there's a bunch of
Yeah.
silly stuff and then the main like story is kind of like dark and serious, but then
Mm-hmm.
there's a bunch of silly stuff with like animals and explosions and all that going on as well.
Totally. I think that's the issue that I had with playing Far. I really wanted to play Far Cry 3 or I think it was 3 or 4. Might have been 4. When that came, they're the same game. When that came out, and I really wanted to play that, and I just found like there was way too much. I felt like the entire beginning of the game was just like killing animals. Like half the shit I had to do was just kill random wildlife that I was seeing while I was out. And I just didn't love that. Like no shade, that's fine. Just wasn't like really. I just like all the crying animals kind of bummed me out.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge part of Far Cry is your
I know. So
upgrades.
like I don't know, it depends on what it is. This seems like it might be a little more like human killing, even though you're still on the island. We'll have to see. Anyway, looks fun. Moving right along, HBO, our favorite home box office over here. The Last of Us pilot has wrapped filming. Now, just the pilot, according to director Kantemir Balagov on Instagram. Matt, I think as a very excited Last of Us fan, what are your feelings on this one?
Yeah, I don't really know what this means. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what this means, when we're going to see it, how fast it's going to move.
Like how much
Specifically,
post production will they need to do in The Last of Us? Like how many effects are they really going to need to put in? I don't know.
right. And I just I don't know what it means as far as like the pilot is finished filming. Like, well, are they not filming the whole thing at the same time? I guess they're just doing the pilot
Yeah.
and hoping that it gets the green light. I don't know, because I know with Game of
Like
Thrones,
did they not get a full series green light? That's kind of strange to me. I thought they would have.
I thought they did, but yeah, it's weird to me that they would just film the pilot if that's the case.
Hmm.
With Game of Thrones, they reshot the pilot. Some characters were recast. I know that they
Yep.
changed some stuff with the set. So
Yep.
like there's differences. So does this mean that eventually the Last of Us pilot's gonna have to be reshot, or they're gonna have to do some pickups for it, or I don't know.
Maybe,
Like
yeah.
are they going forward like next month and doing the rest of the season
It seems
one,
weird to
or I don't know.
mention the pilot unless that we were doing a pilot, like, or maybe like this is gonna be like Game of Thrones, where they're like, "Hey, we filmed the pilot. No one's gonna see it, but like internally, we finished filming the pilot. We're gonna go through some more things. We're gonna do reshoots, and then we're gonna do a full season." It's like, do we need to know all this information? Like,
Yeah, it's kind of
unless you're
weird.
gonna show it to us. Hopefully, this means we're gonna see a pilot, at least before they like decide to move on and then make a series, I guess, because it'd be cool to just see a pilot. I don't know, see something.
That would be really interesting, Paul, if they just like
Yeah,
released a pilot episode and then they were like,
be
this
kind of
is
cool.
what's coming next year. The rest of
Yeah,
it's coming next year. That would be
I think that's really
really
cool. I like when
interesting.
shows do that. I noticed that I don't follow all the Rick and Morty stuff. I'll say my IQ just isn't nearly high enough. But there, I remember with season 3, I believe they like shadow dropped episode 1, and they do this I think on later seasons now too. But they shadow dropped episode 1 on April Fool's Day, and then they were like, oh, the rest of the season's coming like in the fall or something.
Oh
And I
wow.
thought that was so cool, just because at the time, we weren't expecting to see any more for a long time, and they just dropped an episode, and I just, it got me to rewatch that episode like so many times. I rewatched that episode like 3 or 4 times because I was just like, oh, I'm so excited, and this was such a good episode. And I can't wait to see more of this season. And it was kind of fun to get just like a little teaser of what's coming up. And it was kind of story focused. So anyway, I think that'd be cool to see with something like this. It might be kind of fun if they know they're going to go ahead, but they filmed one episode. Why not just like drop that episode, give us a feel of what this show's going to be, and maybe make it kind of standalone-y, not leave us with like, it's like not just make it like one that only works and like with watching the next one like next week.
Right.
And kind of just like give that to us as like a little mini movie to get us excited for the rest of the show.
I feel like with The Last of Us, you could also like you could really do that. Just show
Yeah.
like one episode of Outbreak Day, and then
Yes.
almost like a standalone thing, and then just jumps into season 1. That'd be kind of cool.
It would be very cool to do a prequel thing like that almost as like a pilot would be really interesting to barely even drop like Joel and Ellie or something would be really interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the original Walking Dead thing too, right? With like Rick waking up and then he's just like zombies everywhere. It was kind of crazy. Or yeah, it would have been like in the Walking Dead, they had that Fear the Walking Dead show, which is like set during like Outbreak Day, basically. It would be interesting if like the show like piloted just by having an outbreak, and it's like, never mind, these characters don't matter. Here's the real show. I don't know, that'd be kind of fun. It reminds me, this is the last thing I'll compare it to, but that was an initial thing with Lost. Is in the original thing they wanted to have Michael Keaton be like the main guy in Lost, and they were gonna hype it up over Michael Keaton, and then they were gonna kill him off in the pilot.
Jesus.
And just to show off, like, hey, look, this show's like we're not pulling punches. People are gonna die. We've built this whole show around Michael Keaton. He's dead. But then they thought like the studio was, or not the studio, but like the network was like, yeah, this is like you're gonna get a lot of bad blood from people being like, you tricked us. But I love that. I think it'd be fine. I think it's great whenever they do stuff like hype up a show or something, and then like kill stuff off and be like, this is the real show. I love that.
Yeah, Game of Thrones was kind of the first television show to really kill off main characters willy-nilly.
I don't know. I go back to my boy Lost.
Did they continue to do that throughout the show?
Oh yeah. I mean, to be fair, it all kind of comes back around because of the mystery. Spoilers for Lost, the stupidest ending ever. But they all kind of come back, and everything else. But ultimately, people die like all the time in Lost. Yeah.
Okay.
But they do make it a little bit more of a fanfare about it, though. I will say the Game of Thrones did a great job of just killing people. I mean, in the early seasons, of just killing people off like quick, like how people really die. You just, you're dead and that's it. There's not like a big magic thing around it, which was kind of cool. All right, moving on. Final thing of the day. Gosh, we have so much to talk about, but here is the last thing here. Windows 11 will begin rolling out on October 5th. And you asked me,
yeah,
what does this mean for PC gaming?
Yeah, what does it mean, Paul?
What does it mean? Well, I can tell you just a little bit. There's only 3 real PC gaming updates really coming in this. I mean, obviously, there's benefits all around, but the big stuff that's really specific is we have auto HDR. So we're going to be able to upscale and add in new HDR content for games more easily. That's cool. It's really video card dependent, but it's cool to see more HDR. We're seeing that supported in more games. We are seeing heavy integration of Game Pass. Game Pass is like hard built into this thing. You have Xbox Game Pass. All this stuff is like kind of in the forefront with a new Xbox app.
Good, because the current Xbox Game Pass PC app is so bad.
It's a mess. There's like 3 different Xbox apps, and you have to go to like the Microsoft store. It's not clear, and even when you finally get the right app, it's not. It's very like a wrapper around a web app. It's not good. So yeah, this is pretty cool, and I do appreciate them doing more for Game Pass, especially when they're pushing Game Pass PC to make that a little more streamlined. This actually might see a lot more uptake for that, because right now it does kind of feel like a beta-y product for people who are so used to playing their Steam libraries and stuff like that. In fact, like Matt, you're one of the only people I know who really like focuses on playing Game Pass PC. I see people online talking about it, but I don't actually know anyone in person who would not just buy the game on Steam because it's on Game Pass, which I think is cool. But yeah, not without its issues. And the final thing, which we talked about before when we talked about Windows 11, but I will go over again really quickly, is direct storage. This is probably the biggest thing that's going to be helpful here. Because we know we have our solid state drives. They're so much faster than the traditional spinning hard drives. But you know what? Windows doesn't necessarily take full advantage of those speeds at this point. Just because, Windows itself sometimes does, but not the games. It's hard to translate that. So direct storage is what they have on Xbox Series S and X. And it does allow, I won't get into all the nitty gritty. I did on a previous episode of GG Replay if you want to go back and look at it. But basically, it's just going to make it so the SSDs can finally use their full speed on games. So we're going to be able to load assets a lot faster. We're going to be able to access things way quicker. This means even faster loading times than we already get. Like you see all the time people saying, hey, I put this game on my SSD because it loads faster than the one I put on my hard drive. And Xbox Series S and X, we're already seeing people say there's like load times are so fast. PS5 takes advantage of similar technology with the load times in the SSDs. So we're just going to see less load times, assets, popping in a lot less. It's going to allow for, hopefully as developers and things take advantage of this technology, we're just going to see more and more direct action, coming right to your face without having to like either put a loading screen or like elevators or weird stuff to kind of trick you or mist. We can just see more stuff. So it's pretty exciting. It's just, more, it's hard with software to really see big differences for gaming. But there are some things out there that are going to help take advantage of more hardware. I will say, Windows 11 is beginning to roll out on October 5th, but it is a phased rollout. So some customers are going to be able to get on October 5th. New computers will start being sold with Windows 11 bundled on October 5th, but some people will not be able to even get Windows 11 till mid-2022. It really depends on, I don't know all the details on why or how the phased rollout works, but not everyone will have access on October 5th. So this is going to be a slow phased rollout over the next year or so. So it's something to keep in mind. And also make sure if you have a newer system, it is weird. If you have a newer system, you're good to go, but older systems need the TPM chip in there. So, you might want to check, I think, their compatibility checkers online to make sure that you can run Windows 11 on your PC. Definitely good to keep in mind where you're not like, where's Windows 11? Why am I just getting 10 point something? That would be why. Yeah, so I don't know, Matt. Seems pretty cool. So are you going to be upgrading as soon as you get the opportunity to Windows 11?
I suppose. I mean, is there a downside? I don't know.
I don't think. I mean, we have yet to know. I mean, there might be some bugs, but I doubt there'll be any major downsides coming up. It looks fine. It's interesting to see a Windows. I remember there was a talk a few years ago, and this was, I think, misunderstood internal like emails and things like that, but there was a lot of talk about how they weren't going to do another numbered Windows, that Windows 10 was the last Windows, and we're just going to see like iteration upon iteration, more like what like Mac OS is doing now, where it's like, I mean, they don't call them numbered things anymore. It's just like a new update every year. But we're getting Windows 11. They said, that was misunderstood. And it's interesting to see because, every other Windows update for the last little while has been kind of janky and weird. And Windows 11 really does feel like a refinement. It feels like a refined Windows 10. So it's cool to see them maybe going for something a little less crazy like Vista and Windows 8 were, and maybe just keep working on those refinements. So excited to see. My computer definitely cannot update to Windows 11. It's ancient. But maybe the next one, when I buy my new computer, I will have Windows 11 bundled, which is pretty cool.
Am I correct in saying that there was no Windows 9?
There was no Windows 9. It was like the iPhone 9 and the everything 9. Everyone skips 9 because 10 is so tantalizing. Everyone wants 10. Everyone loves using 10. So they're like, forget it. I can't wait. I'm jumping to 10.
Very strange.
So yeah, it is really weird. Yeah. Very strange. It's not even like an unlucky thing, like like a lot of like Chinese things, or they try to avoid 13, or there's another one too. That's a number they avoid in China that I can't remember. But yeah,
especially like in the world of software, where like version numbers are so important.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, nah, forget it. That's why I think it's much better to just. I like what macOS is doing. I think just like I mean, they still use version numbers, of course, but the version numbers are more for like developers, and I like that in general. Right. You can just kind of be like, oh yeah, I've got Mac OS, and it's like, oh, what update are you on? Well, it doesn't really matter. They add little updates, and you can call them whatever you like. I'm on Mountain Lions, like 12 years old, but I forget what
I
they're up
think
to
mine
now.
is still running Snow
Big
Leopard or something
Big
like that.
Sur or something. Yeah, I think Snow Leopard was the last one you could physically buy in the store. Actually, I'm pretty sure. And I remember seeing people like lining up. I remember watching iJustine line
Wow.
up for it on YouTube or something for the midnight
Amazing.
release of Snow Leopard. And now it's just a free update, which is pretty cool to see. All right. Well, Matt, that's going to be it for the GG replay today, but don't go away yet. If you're listening right now, Matt, you don't go away, and nobody at home go away, because I have a couple things to remind you, and there's a little secret in here. First off, we have a secret, and that's to tell you that we have a whole ass website, goodnightgroofs.com. There you can find our podcasts, videos, blog posts, links to all of our socials, and exclusive content on TikTok and Instagram and everything else. So please feel free to get there. And the more people who follow us, the more content there will be. And also, if you're feeling really generous and you enjoy all the content we provide, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/goodnightgroofs. There you can find we have a $1, $3, and $5 tier. The $3 tier does get you early access to our all-encompassing gaming podcast, Game Groofs, that we did mention earlier at the top of the episode. It's a lot of fun, and normally that comes out on Sunday, but if you are a Patreon, you can get you're not Patreon. If you are a patron, you can get that. If you are the CEO of Patreon, you can get that on Friday. Do you think the CEO of Patreon gets like access to all the Patreons without having to pay?
Absolutely.
Right?
You would think so, right?
You would think, right? I feel like anyone who works at Patreon should just get access to like every Patreon without having to pay. Like, seems pretty fair.
Pretty sweet benefit.
It's a good benefit, honestly. I think it's like, I don't know, like dental, like forget that. I want to get all the Patreons. That's a lot of content. Yeah, so feel free to check that out. We really, really appreciate anyone who does subscribe. Like I said, we have a $1 tier, so we're just looking. It's more of just like a nice little tip because you like us. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big deal right now, but we're just we're hoping that anyone who loves us can go ahead and do that. And the main purpose is not to make us rich; it's just so that we can produce more content for everyone out there who is subscribing and listening to us. And also, hello to all the subscribers. Just want to say at the bottom of the episode here, thank you to everyone who's subscribed to us over the last last month on podcast apps. We've had a huge boon of people subscribing to us, like 3 or 4 times the amount we had in July.
Yeah.
So really, really awesome. Welcome to everyone. If you've made it to this far in the show where I'm shielding everything, I really, really appreciate that. And just a reminder to you guys, pull the car over to the side of the road right now because you need to give us a 5-star or a thumbs up on any podcast app you're listening to this on. If you are on Spotify, Apple Music, Pocket Casts, Podcast Addict, Groofcast. I don't know. We should make our own app. It'd be pretty cool. Then please give us a 5-star review or a thumbs up. Leave us a rating or a review. Like you can write, I thought Matt's hair looked really sharp in this episode. It's really growing in nicely.
Wow.
And then I'll respond and be like, wow, no comment on my hair. And that's something we could do to have fun. So yeah, we really, really appreciate that. And don't forget, you can always email us at ggreplayshow@gmail.com if you have any other questions or just want to send us any feedback. We are here not just for corrections, but also just to chat with y'all and have a good time. Matt, do you have anything else to add before we close out this episode of the show?
No, I'm just gonna go take some vitamins and a Tylenol.
I was waiting for like a little funny joke. True, that's just it.
It's just the truth.
Yeah, what do you think you have if you don't have COVID? Do you think you just have like a cold maybe or something like that?
I don't know. It's weird to like get a cold or like a flu or something in the summer. It's not common.
I used to get a lot of summer colds. Like not a lot, but every other summer or something in August I'd get one. I feel like because we're in September though, right? Like I know a bunch of people have gotten sick this week actually. My Rachel's sister got sick. She got she thought she had COVID, but it was like a head cold or a sinus infection. A friend of ours did. I think what's happening is like there's more and more people hanging out like maskless or a little bit, just a little more open than they were. And like the vaccines are helping against COVID, I think the old stuff's just coming back now that we're not masked, right?
True.
So like colds and flus and all that stuff is just coming back more readily than like last year when like we were so locked down you couldn't get any kind of illness.
Right.
So anyway, I hope you feel a lot better on Friday, Matt, for our laid back day. Did you hear Mike's soda fact at the end of Friday's episode?
It did. He's a copycat.
He's a copycat, so we're gonna come back with a fresh soda fact on Friday, hopefully. if we're feeling up to it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you again on Laid Back Friday. Good night, Groofs.